Hello, my name is Carol May Whittick. I support women to bloom with creativity and spiritual life coaching. I'm your host of Her Conversations, Tools for the Awakening. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. This is the optimal state to embody in order to attract our highest desires. What is the awakening? This is the moment in time when humanity rises up out of the darkness. Who is awakening? Each one of us present on earth today, reclaiming our sovereignty, seeking greater possibilities in our reality and looking for solutions. We know being awakened is not a lofty ideal, but a necessity. If we can transform ourselves, we can change the world. Guests on Her Conversations will speak to your spirituality, sensuality and soul. Listen to their stories and hear how they are in service to the world. Let their words and these conversations embolden and inspire you. My guest this week is Sabrina Trobak. She is a registered counsellor and the author of Not Good Enough, Understanding Your Core Belief and Anxiety. During our conversation, Sabrina shares how core beliefs of not good enough, not important, not valued feed into anxiety. She also shares how readers of her book can use the tools within it to manage their anxiety. So as always, I begin by asking my guest. Her is an acronym for Higher Energetic Resonance. When do you feel that higher energetic resonance?
There's probably two different scenarios. The one is I go to the pool every morning and do, it's called Hydro Rider. So it's kind of like spin class in the water. And it definitely gives me energy for the day for sure. And then the other one would probably be when my clients get the aha moments, when something clicks for them and the light bulb comes on, you can just see it in their eyes. That definitely gives me a bit of a boost as well, for sure.
And before we go on with the conversation, I just want to give you an opportunity, Sabrina, just to explain your life story. What brought you to do the work that you're doing today?
So I was a teacher for over 20 years, mainly a learning assistant teacher, so working in small groups. Towards the end of my teaching career, I was a school counselor, and I went to a workshop on suicide, and it was looking at suicide from the perspective of our core belief, feeling not good enough, not important, not valued. At the end of the 3-day workshop, I just thought, this is what I need to do. So I contacted the presenter, whose name was Tony Martins. We went back and forth for a year, and he agreed to teach me his model of therapy. So I quit teaching and started my own private practice, really looking at and focusing on that core belief, not good enough, not important, not valued, and the impact it has in our daily life. That was back in 2010. And within about 6 months of doing that, I have had a waiting list. And I hate having to turn people away. So I decided to write a book called Not Good Enough, Understanding Your Core Belief and Anxiety. And that came out about a year and a half ago now. And so now I'm just trying to be able to provide a resource for people who maybe can't access counseling for whatever reason.
Perfect, thank you. Let's just talk about this idea of not good enough. I suppose, if we're all being honest, there are moments in our lives when we question, our ability to do things, and maybe where we kind of stand in the world. Am I measuring up to the metric of what good actually represents? Where does that core metric come from? Like, where do we start on this not good enough, and what compounds it to the point that it really kind of holds us back and maybe even leads people to make and take such drastic action?
So the core belief really starts, as soon as you're born. We could even go back and look at parents' core belief and likely going to see a bit of a predictor factor of what's going to happen moving forward as well. Definitely people who experience trauma, loss of volatility, feel really unsafe in their environment. Often that core belief, not good enough, not important, not valued, is developing. And then it's also looking at how those experiences are handled. So in a lot of cases, they're just kind of brushed aside and minimized. We don't really go back and talk about them. We don't get a chance to really just resolve them. So they stay with us. And that buildup of emotion over time also significantly feeds into that core belief. If I'm carrying a whole bunch of emotion, It's harder for me to deal with just daily life, little things that happen. Like I spill my coffee becomes overwhelming because I'm so full of this emotion, which then is going to feed and make me feel not good enough, not important, not valued even more. We're constantly trying to prove to ourselves that what we believe about ourselves is true. So if my core belief is not good enough, not important, not valued, I'm going to interpret things. I'm going to be drawn to people that reinforce and support that core belief. So someone doesn't say hi to me, my core belief is not good enough, I'm going to take it personally, right? They must be mad at me. I've done something wrong. My core belief is good enough, important and valued. I may think, oh, I wonder what's going on for them. I hope they're doing okay, sort of thing. I'm not taking it as personally. So that core belief really becomes a very driving force where we're continuing to support it year after year after year after year.
And how do you, as a parent, recognize that in a child? If you're trying to look out and make sure that you can see some early markers of that and maybe be able to bolster their self-esteem. Is it something that can be noticed by a parent? And even with me saying that, I'm thinking, well, if they're kind of drawing from the parent has this not good enough, then are they going to be even in the right environment for anyone to come out of that without unscathed, without that kind of core wounding and that core belief that they are not good enough. So what can be done at what point in time to recognize it and then to build up and out from that?
It really is the parents learning more about themselves. It kind of rolls downhill. So if I have two parents that feel not good enough, not important, not valued, it's pretty difficult for them to develop a child who feels good enough, important, and valued. I can say to you, you're good enough, you're good enough, you're good enough, you're good enough, but it's all these other little experiences that I take to make me feel not good enough. So ideally, what we want is for parents to recognize and realize, oh, that's actually a bit of my core belief. What do I need to do to challenge? If the parents challenge and change their core belief to feeling more good enough, important, and valued, that is going to change the perspective within the child as well. Nobody's core belief is 100% one or the other. We're all a bit of a combination of it, but it's being aware of when is that core belief creeping in, and then what do I do to kind of challenge that so I start to believe more that I am good enough.
Mm-mm. In a world that is set up to make you feel as small as possible so that they can guide you to, go into, if I even just think of things like the way that we're advertised to, and our need for all of these things around us. There's always this person's the benchmark, or this is the measure, and we're always striving for success in whatever way, shape or form, either by doing something or by buying something or whatever it is. It's like everything's just based on you're not quite the measure. What can we as individuals start to recognize in ourselves when we're kind of taking on and thinking that everything's directed at us, to then be that stronger person going, okay, that's not who I am. So what can we do individually to kind of build that core self-esteem so messages or even the subliminals like that don't get to us so much?
And it's kind of which came first, the chicken or the egg. So the social media feeds the core belief, or the core belief is what feeds the social media. If people's core beliefs were good enough, important, and valued, our social media would likely look different. But the social media kind of feeds into that. So part of what we have to do, whether it's social media or just society in general, is get better at kind of just tuning it out and realizing that's there for a reason. Is that really what I believe in, or do I want to do something a bit differently? Now, that's way easier said than done. There's no doubt about that. But we need to get better at trying to kind of sort through and understand why does this social media or these social norms have such a pull on me? Is it really about what's in my best interest and what's best for me? Or is it more about what society says we needs to kind of keep everything in place? So you really have to kind of get better at kind of drowning out the noise and not hearing it as much, because it is everywhere for sure.
Right, exactly. I work almost predominantly with midlife women, And one of the things that I can recognize is that feeling of all of things that were, I'm trying to be very general, things that didn't happen, time's running out, I'm not good enough, especially going through this physical transformational transition from one side to the other, and also then really looking at what they've done in their lives. And many times, even if they've achieved a lot, there's this air of still not having done enough, either could have been a better parent, could have climbed higher up in the ladder, could have done this, could have made more money, could have traveled, maybe that relationship could, suddenly everything didn't quite hit the mark, and it really kind of slams home at that point in time. And also because it's a real pivotal point in life where you're really taking stock and then really making some changes. Your body's going to change, and now you're going to really notice that you're not that young, innocent child or woman anymore. And, there's responsibilities that come with that. Have you, or how do you speak to women in midlife who are going through this crisis of not good enough, nothing's good enough, it's all over?
What I often find in working with clients that are kind of in that midlife is they've done all these things and accomplished all these things, not really because that's important to them, but because they think that's what they should do because it's important to others. So I'm trying to do what society says a good wife does, a good mom does. I'm trying to please my husband, please my kids, please my boss. We spend all our time trying to make everyone else happy, which is all time we're not really building and developing our own identity of what we want. So then once the kids are older, they've grown up, they're kind of on their own, and things kind of settle down. Now I'm left with just me. And I hear often a lot of women say, I've lost my identity. But when we dig a little bit deeper, the truth of the matter is they've never really developed it in the first place. So you have to go back and really look at, who are you? What is important to you? What are your passions? What are the things that you want to do for you? Stop worrying about society. Again, if my core belief is not good enough, not important, not valued, I don't trust in myself and believe in myself that I can make those decisions. So I'm trying to get everyone else's approval. And so they just feed into each other over and over and over again. Once I stop and really start to just figure out who am I? What do I want to do for me? Then we start to challenge that core belief and develop the core belief, good enough, important, and valued. Well, now I'm doing what I want. I'm reaching my own goals that are based on my needs and my wants, not trying to please everyone else. Now I don't feel as lost. I feel more grounded, more settled, more confident in my own decisions because I'm looking at it from my perspective rather than trying to make everyone else happy. And I think that's one of the things that society does in general is, women, there's often this idea that women's role is to make other people happy, to please others. And so it's a huge social norm that we've been fighting for generations and generations. So it makes sense, it's there, but we can challenge it individually and say, no, that I'm going to figure out what's important to me and look at it from that personal perspective.
One of the things I see clients struggling with is feeling that taking that time for themselves is selfish. There's that, especially if they've been giving all the time to all of those external people or things, and it's not without all the care in the world to do it. It's been a worthy task, and people have thrived as a result. But then, like you say, that idea of who am I? It's like, I don't know, who do you think you are? If you were none of those things, and that void that you now find for yourself, what are you saying, or what kind of words can you impart when they feel really uncomfortable with stepping into that? I'm going to actually figure out who I am, or I'm going to try and remember that dream that I had years ago, the thing that I always wanted to do, and I told myself I couldn't do it because I just had kids, or I just started working at this firm, or I wanted to support my husband, or all the other things that just got put in front of seeing your own life and realizing that even by doing all of those things, it was a worthy cause to do those things. But by not doing the thing that you wanted to do was why you had this loss of confidence, because your confidence comes from doing what gives you more of you. What can you impart to some of the listeners from your perspective?
So two things there. I think the first thing you said, it's uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is good. It means we're challenging, we're changing, we're doing something different. So whenever you're feeling uncomfortable, that can be a good thing. That means there's a possibility for growth to happen there. So we need to step outside of that comfort zone and challenge ourselves to try new things and figure out new things and understand things from different perspectives. So uncomfortable is scary, but it's really vital to our own personal growth and happiness for sure. The other point is, I think there's a difference between selfish and self-care. So selfish is, I'm taking care of myself. I don't really care about anyone else. Doesn't have an impact on anyone else. Self-care is, I'm going to step back and take care of myself so I can be better in my life. I can be better with my partner, with my kids, with my coworkers. I can feel more connected. I can be more present and be more in the moment. So self-care is what we're doing to actually improve our connections with other people around us. Selfish is usually things that we're doing for ourselves. We're not really considering other people. I always look at selfish. We often kind of like we said, we kind of look down at people who are selfish. Selfish people are often hurting people. The more I'm hurting, the more I'm struggling, the less I'm capable at being able to really understand and see what's happening outside of me. So people who are really, really selfish are often really struggling and really hurting. And they need to take time to kind of go more into that self-care and figure out what's going on for them. But again, society says women aren't allowed to take that time for themselves. So you've got to challenge that social norm and say, no, I do need to take care of myself. When I'm talking with families, I say, what's your first priority? Almost always say, oh, the kids. Truth of the matter is, you need to be the first priority. You and your partner need to be the second priority, and your kids need to be the third priority. Because if the first or second are fractured, it is going to have a massive impact on your children. So you need to take care of yourself. You need to take care of your relationship in order to provide the best environment for your children.
So tell me about the book you wrote, and you said you were inspired just because there's not more than one of you, or maybe 10 of you, or however you need. Tell me more about that book and the process of writing the book, and what are you doing? How are you guiding people through your work, through the book?
So the book looks at anxiety through that perspective of the core belief. So if my core belief is not good enough, not important, not valued, I'm going to have more insecurity, more self-doubt, more anxiety. Anxiety is actually lack of confidence. If I don't believe in myself, I can handle something, I'm going to have more anxiety. So the book helps you look through and get a better understanding of where is your core belief at? How significant is it? What are some life experiences that you've been through to kind of get it to where it is? And then what do you do to help you challenge and understand it? So we look at anxiety from that perspective of that core belief. We look at symptoms of anxiety. A lot of people, know what their anxiety looks like when it's really, really, really high, but we don't necessarily know what it looks like at a 3, 4, 5 out of 10, which means I'm not doing anything about it until it's really, really high. So we need to become more aware of what it looks like at a lower level. We look at how anger is very much connected to anxiety. Anger is an emotion that, is more socially acceptable to feel, has been for generations. And so when I feel other emotions, I switch it to anger. If I get angry, I don't have to feel those other emotions: anxiety, fear, vulnerability, lonely, powerless, insecure. So we look at anger and how that works. And then we also look at strategies on healthy strategies to better understand and figure out how to manage those, the anxiety and the anger. And then we also look at other emotions and how we get better at being able to feel and understand the emotions that we are feeling rather than just blocking them and pushing them away. The books is written in small chunks. So as a learning assistant teacher, I know that people who struggle with anxiety often have a hard time reading. So the book is broken down into very small chunks. There's a lot of diagrams, pictures, charts, where you just have to read a very short amount of information and then you apply that to your own personal experience. So it's broken down so it's not overwhelming for people. You can read, half a page and then stop for the day and let yourself kind of absorb and think about the information that you're reading. And what it's doing is helping you take that general information, but apply it to yourself specifically.
Mm. That's great. That's great. What's the feedback been on the book?
I get really good feedback. A lot of people have said that they like the activities where they can go through and apply the information to themselves, and just a lot of kind of insight and understanding in a way that they never really thought about anxiety before. So it's been very insightful for a lot of the readers as well.
I want to talk about you actually and find out a little bit more about you. Like, I hear your work, but how has this work changed you as a person, and what kind of impact has it just had on the way that you see the world and the way that you live your life?
Well, I'm a big believer in you got to practice what you preach. And so for me to be able to teach this model of therapy, I had to go through it myself. So I had to look at my own insecurities, my own core belief, how it's developed over, my lifetime, and that what I've had to do to kind of challenge and change that core belief as well. And again, I started this process when I was about 40 or so. And it took several years. I'm still growing and learning and understanding and going, oh, there's that core belief again, and getting better at challenging and becoming more aware of it for sure. Being at the place where I am now, where I generally do feel more good enough, important, and valued, it just allows me to enjoy life a lot more, see things that I can appreciate, be more present in the moment rather than always thinking ahead, feeling more kind of relaxed and content just in the moment for sure has been life-changing for sure.
Are there some areas that were surprising to you in terms of like things that you learned about yourself as you were going through the process, and then the way that life is now, not once you're kind of moving through it, and also learning from your clients as well?
I think probably one of the biggest ones for me was when I was a teacher, I struggled with headaches. I would get really, really, really bad headaches. They couldn't figure out what was going on. I ended up doing, lumbar punctures and different things to try to figure out what was couldn't figure out what it is. One day I was teaching a science class, went into the lab and realized I had brought in the wrong size beakers. So instead of, I brought in 125 mils and I needed 250 mils. And I just beat myself up about how stupid I was. How could I have not gotten the right size beakers? And now I let my whole class down. It was like 3 minutes. I went into the back room, switched beakers, brought it out. It was a non-issue, but I made it into this great big deal. And then guess what? I got a really bad headache. And so once I started learning about this model of therapy and realizing I was creating my own headaches by having so much of this negative self-talk and putting so much pressure on myself and feeling like I wasn't a good enough teacher, I wasn't a good enough mom, I wasn't a good enough partner, all those kind of things played a really significant role. So as I started working through things and really being more aware of what that core belief was and challenging it, it's made a really significant difference. I haven't had a headache now we're looking at just about 9 years, because I just don't beat myself up over the small things. It's just not worth it. It's not necessary. I don't need to do it. If I have the wrong side beakers, I just go and change them. That's it. Move on. Next thing.
Yeah, it's great. But it's always interesting to see how we become transformed by what we learn, and how we impart to others, but also the feedback that we get from the people that we work with. So where do you see this work going, and where would you like to see it? What kind of vision do you have for the future going forward with this?
I really am passionate about this model of therapy. And so the more people that I can help kind of see and understand it from that perspective, the better it is. So, I definitely want to promote my book, but even part of doing the podcast is hopefully just, a couple people hear and go, oh, I never really thought about it like that. And allowing people to just grow and gain some understanding in their own mental health is really my professional goal for sure.
Mhm.
Personally, traveling, spending time with family, enjoying life, that's, kind of the goal for sure as well.
Yeah, yeah. Have you got in mind that you might create another book or expand your practice in some way so that more people can get access to, if not you, something that can kind of bring your work to them in a different way?
If this book goes and, I end up selling a fair amount of copies, then I definitely have some ideas for writing a second book for sure. As for my practice, I'm kind of keeping it the way it is right now. It is a struggle because I can't access a ton of clients at the same time. But I like doing it by myself. I like making sure that I'm aware, I know what's happening, I know what's being told to the clients. The supervision piece of having a bunch of other therapy client or other therapists is it's just not my passion. I like working with the clients rather than managing staff. So that I did have client or staff for a while, and it was great. But I definitely it's the client piece that I really enjoy the most. That's my passion. So that's an area that I want to continue in. So looking at trying to expand that with social media and with the book is the main areas that I'm focusing on for right now.
And if anybody was curious about how to reach out to you, either to learn more about your model and the model and where that started, or to work with you, where would they contact you? How would they get in contact with you?
So the best place is probably my website. So my website is trobakholistic.org. On my website, it's got links to all of my social media. So I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and I have a YouTube channel as well. On my website, there's also a page that has all the different podcast interviews that I've done. It's got a blog section, which is, 2 to 4 minute reads of various articles around mental health. It also, of course, has my contact information with my email and that kind of stuff as well. And there's also a page there to connect to purchase my book as well.
And if there was anything that you wanted to share to people who might be in that state of, really feeling that not good enough, where can they start with their own self-inquiry if that's kind of an overrunning narrative in their mind, which we all go through from time to time, but if it's really overshadowing their whole life experience, what can you share as start here piece?
I think one of the very first pieces that you have to do is the awareness. So if that voice not good enough is there, we often just run away from it, avoid it, pretend it's not there, try to drown it out. That doesn't make it go away. It usually just makes it get bigger and bigger and bigger. So we need to stop and listen to it and acknowledge that, wow, that's how I'm feeling right now. It is what it is. It's not about whether it's true or not. It's my truth. So I need to acknowledge that for what it is and then figure out, how do I want to challenge that? Is that really what I want it to be? But if I don't even really acknowledge what that is, I can't challenge it. So we need to stop and just listen to what messages we're sending to ourselves and then get better at challenging them. But we need to acknowledge that's where I am. That's where I'm at right now. That's okay. Now I need to figure out what to do to move forward. But if I'm always just running from it, it's never going to get better. And the other part is it's exhausting. As long as you're running, to keep running. Once you stop and just address it for what it is, there's a huge sense of relief that comes with it, because now I don't have to run away from it. I can just acknowledge and accept it and then start to challenge it.
Sabrina, thank you so much for sharing. And it's such an important one, because not good enough is something we just hear from everybody, really. So hopefully the message that you've shared will ring a bell with people and they'll dig in and find out more about you. So I really appreciate what you've shared with me today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It was nice chatting with you.
Thank you, Sabrina, for sharing your wisdom with me, and thank you for listening. You can find out more about me on my website, that's carolmaywhittick.com. You can also follow me and connect with me on Facebook and LinkedIn under Carol May Whittick, and on Instagram as Casmic, Cazmick. Until the next episode, thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.